Welcome back to American Agenda. I'm Allison Maloney in for Heather Childers today, and we have some breaking news we want to let you know about. The Supreme Court siding in with an illegal alien from Guatemala over deportation. The Supreme Court's ruling faulted the federal government for improperly notifying a man who came to the United States illegally from Guatemala to appear for a removal hearing. And we also have new details about federal agents raiding former Trump attorney Rudy Giuliani's New York City apartment. The feds were allegedly investigating associates connected to Giuliani and obtained evidence Giuliani was using a disposable so-called burner phone. It prompted them to obtain a warrant to seize all of his electronic devices. But Giuliani claims that when the agents found a hard drive belonging to Hunter Biden, they refused to take it. Rudy Giuliani's son, Andrew Giuliani, slammed what he called the FBI's bias this morning on Wake Up America.
The FBI came in looking for devices. They took his 2 phones. They took his iPad. The one thing that they did not take, which I told Sean last night, was Hunter Biden's laptop. The one thing they didn't take. I mean, what is this? Are we still in America? This is unbelievable. I mean, that's the only piece of incriminating evidence that was in that apartment. And it doesn't incriminate my father. It incriminates Hunter.
And joining us now to discuss is Distinguished University Professor at Touro College and author of the book Saving Free Speech, Thane Rosenbaum, also GOP strategist and constitutional law attorney Amir Benno. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us today. Amir, I want to start with you. So a lot of questions regarding, what happened. They obtained the warrant, but they took, devices, but they didn't touch the laptop.
Right. And so the reason is probably they were constrained. Well, look, I'm speculating here, but I'm guessing they're constrained by the provisions in the warrant itself. So they go before a magistrate who issues out a warrant. The warrant is limited, saying the judge has found probable cause to search certain things for certain purposes. And perhaps if this, was a copy of the hard drive of Hunter Biden, it didn't fall into those categories for which they were executing the warrant. My understanding from reading the reporting on it is that the warrant had to do with the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, which is an anti-bribery statute. So essentially stops people from giving something of value to a foreign government in exchange for something of value. And in here, I believe the allegations were that that Giuliani may have given something of value to the Ukrainian government in exchange for some dirt on Joe Biden during the election season. I don't know necessarily that Hunter's laptop, as nefarious as it may be and all of the different incriminating evidence that might be found on it, might not fall into the categories of information that were subject to this warrant.
Thane, I wanted to ask you about what's always referred to as attorney-client privilege. And we all know that Rudy Giuliani has served as an attorney for the president. But I was curious when that attorney-client privilege applies. Does it apply in this kind of situation?
Yes. Look, I think it's very important to know this is very unusual, executing warrants to raid the home of a lawyer who in this case happens to represent the President of the United States and has materials that are privileged to that relationship. It just so happens that President Trump's 2 lawyers were in this position. The same thing happened to Michael Cohen, but it's highly unusual for this to happen for the very point that you're making. And a judge knows that in order to issue an execute a search warrant, that in this instance the evidence better really be there, because this is really a violation of so many rules about the attorney-client privilege. And the point, I think the implicit is in there, Bob, is that there's something here that's just so undignified, unbecoming of a great nation. This was the former mayor of New York City, who was also
not just that thing, but this was the mayor on 9/11. And any of us who were here at that time, we know what he meant to us that went through it. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I'm just...
No, but you're quite right, Bob. You're quite right. No. And Bob, let me just tell you how strongly I feel about this. I'm a New Yorker. I had 3 opportunities to vote for Rudy Giuliani. I didn't vote for him once. But I think what happened to him yesterday was just awful. I just think it to me, just again, it's unbecoming of a great nation. It sets a precedent of retribution against political rivals. And to pick up on what Amir said, it's something I said on your show yesterday. Allison wasn't with us. But I said, wait, is this really still about the failure to register as a lobbyist? Is this still really about the foreign agents?
Doesn't feel like it.
Yeah, is it really about this? Because you would go at 6 a.m. in the morning to do this. This is not an act of treason. This is not a capital crime. You know, this lack of perspective about, is there really evidence that Giuliani was going to destroy evidence? I thought the evidence was that he had welcomed the FBI to the materials that he was planning to give them anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
So again, I just find this perspective that, you know, we're treating this like a capital crime. And I said yesterday, I said, I hope there's something more in the warrant. And I was happy to hear Amir talk about the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act. As okay, maybe there is something here more, because given what I thought the allegations were, I just thought it was totally inappropriate. And you're right, Bob. He was the mayor. He was the country's mayor on 9/11.
Yeah, Amir, does he even, you know, have is there charges at all do you think that he could face based on this? What are your thoughts?
Look, when the federal government wants to bring charges against somebody, it's not too hard for them to do that, sadly. And, you know, we saw, to speak to the issue of reprisals, just recently in the Derek Chauvin trial, we saw this Dr. David Fowler, who was the medical examiner who came in and testified for the defense, found himself now on the receiving end of having his license struck in an investigation in Maryland, where they're reopening all the cases that he ever testified in, simply because he participated on a side of a legal proceeding that was not the popular side, or the side that the left aligned with. Similar here, this certainly stinks, and we can suspect possibly that the same thing is happening, that Rudy Giuliani is being targeted because of his affiliation with Donald Trump, and that they had to wait until Merrick Garland got into the role of Attorney General in order for this investigation to sort of go full steam ahead. And so until we get more details, we really don't know what the facts are, whether there's any real meat to the allegations and what they're doing here. But it certainly creates the appearance of some sort of vengeance, and that is just antithetical to the rule of law.
Yeah. We're out of time, gentlemen. Thane, maybe you can look into that story we had at the top of the segment about the immigrant, the illegal immigrant who was ordered to appear but was fighting that. And it looks like the justices said you have to put all the relevant details in one document. You can't space them out in other documents, or that gives an advantage to the government over the individual. So that's looks like.
And Bob, let me just say briefly about that. The Supreme Court, that's not a case decided on the merits. That's something that has to do with due process.
Exactly.
Right?
So they didn't get to the merits.
Yeah, we would expect that our country, Supreme Court justices, want to see that everyone is entitled to due process under the law.
Right.
And this was about the fundamental fairness of how the case.
They always look for an excuse, don't they, think, to not rule on the merits.
Right.
All right.
Quite right, Bob.
Thane Rosenbaum and Amir Benno, thank you so much for joining us. All right, reminder that we do have an app if you'd like to download it called Newsmax TV. It is free. You can download it to your iPhone, your Android phone. You don't have to go through any